Hi everyone, my name is Jana Helder. I'm a Smart City consultant at BABLE and I'm very happy to be here today with Robin and Magnus. But before introducing our two lovely guests, I'm just going to give you some background on the project and the webinar we're doing today. So the best practice collection has been part of the EIT Urban Mobility Factory last year. The goal of the EIT Urban Mobility Factory is to scale up successful urban mobility solutions. And how we've supported this is we collected best practices, projects who are supporting the climate friendliness or the smartness of urban mobility in the city club cities and also in other leading European cities. We've been collecting them together with CTEC, especially with Raul Urbano, and we've published them on our platform. Yesterday, there was also a report published on the most insightful projects in 9 topic areas. These topic areas include traffic management systems, COVID response, bicycle infrastructure, and urban logistics. And one project which we're going to discuss today, because Robin and Magnus are the experts in that, is part of the urban logistics topic and is the nighttime deliveries using clean and silent vehicles in Stockholm. So we are lucky to have 2 people here, one from the city side and one from the company side. So from the city side, we have Robin Bilsche. He's working as urban freight strategist at the city of Stockholm in the transport department there. And we have Markus Blinge he's research manager at Scavia in the transport system solution and innovation office. Thanks for both of you for being here. I'm very happy to discuss that with you. And I'm just quickly, I would just like to ask you to briefly explain the project, how you ended up working in the project, and what your roles were there. So, Robin, can I ask you to begin?
So the project started within, first it started within Civitas Eccentric project, another EU-funded project in developing solutions for nighttime deliveries. And we worked together with the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm there to find solutions. We wanted a plug-in hybrid truck, a receiver, and a transport company. So there was a innovation procurement done in which Scania entered the project and brought the transport company Harvey Logistics and the receiver McDonald's into the project. And together we developed it, solutions for nighttime deliveries to 6 different McDonald's restaurants in Stockholm.
Thank you.
Well, I entered then when it became a EIT project, when we want to further develop this and test more silent material and to make sure that it works all right, to test how the drivers feel about it and the receivers, of course, the McDonald's, how will it fit to their business and requisites.
Thank you. So for everyone in the audience, please post questions in the chat as you have them. I'm just quickly I have some more questions on the introduction. Then we'll also have a quick interactive part, and afterwards we will hopefully focus on all your interesting questions. So Magnus, you already mentioned the receiver and the drivers as like impacted by the project, but did you also include the citizens in the project? How did they conceive the project?
Not much in this project actually. We wanted to make sure that you were quite unbiased in the project. So we have some experiences, and I think Robin can agree that if you post it to the citizens around, they will listen for the noise more carefully. So we're not sure that we get the right data from that. So in this project, we used measurements instead to really measure the sound, to be sure what comes from the vehicle, what comes from the handling material, and what comes from sort of the driver. Does he smash the doors, or can he behave silent as well? So we actually didn't involve the citizens in this project, but that was deliberate because it's much more because we have some experience that when we talk with the citizens, then they listen for it and they complain about things that didn't have to do with the project, but they thought it was about this kind of project.
Makes sense. Yeah, but then if you collected the data and you probably talked to the drivers as well as the receivers, do you already have any results, and are there plans to use it not only for McDonald's or not only in the center of Stockholm, but also expand it? Maybe Robin? Sorry.
Yes, I mean, we've collected data both when it comes to noise and also transport efficiency. And when it comes to noise, what we've learned from the different projects that now with an increasing amount of electric solutions, we see that there are more silent solutions to cope with noise issues, and especially it's easier in general on the main streets that are a bit more busy, where the background noise is a factor that sort of covers the additional noise from the delivery. So it depends a little on the context, the urban context. When it comes to transport efficiency, we've seen throughout basically all the night delivery projects that we, in average, we gain 30% travel time by going to off-peak from peak. So of course, it's a very smart way of using the existing infrastructure of the city in a more efficient way, spreading out the transport.
Nice, thank you. Magnus, Robin by nature focuses on Stockholm as a scale up, but you probably also think about other cities. Is there any plans on like moving this or replicating this also in other parts of Europe or the world?
I think there are. We had in the KIC and Urban Mobility Projects cooperation with the Colruyt in Brussels. We did some similar, and also with MAN, our colleagues in Munich, and they tested a full electric vehicle for now. We had some problems due to COVID, of course, but there was some tests there, and I know that Colruyt will continue. As for today, I don't really know how it will continue in Munich, but we will definitely go further. We are initiating a project where we really want to understand the receiver more, because as Robin said, it's a 30% production increase for the transport company. But McDonald's didn't really have any gains for that. They had to have personnel in the middle of the night there. So they, we have to find a business model that's good for all parties. So we saw in this project the complexity that we have to involve many more stakeholders to get this running. And so we are continuing the project, trying to find ways to have unmanned receivement of goods, because then it will be more efficient in economic terms as well for all parties. So we will continue, definitely. Another thing that is very important is, of course, the handling material. When the vehicle is silent, it's much more the handling material, the cargo carriers, the rolling cages that makes the noise. It's not the vehicle itself very much. Because when we now roll out the full electric, not only the plug-in hybrids, but also the full electric, it's very clear that it's not the vehicle itself. It's perhaps the driver and the handling material, and also the receiver that makes the noise.
Now you talked about plug-in electric or hybrid vehicles. I've also been reading that you're using biofuel vehicles. So what kind of vehicles are you using, and what are the benefits of which?
Well, we started this first eccentric project with the first prototype with a plug-in hybrid. It has a very small battery in that time. So it only went about 10 to 12 kilometers on electric, full electric. And but it was equipped with a geofencing equipment. It's called Scania Zone. So the vehicle itself knows when it enters a sensitive area, then it put the electricity on. But even with a small battery, very small battery, we could see that you get a reduction of 70% of fuel consumption on this particular route. That was about 30, 40, 50 kilometers approximately. And that vehicle was, of course, run on HVO, so it was fully biodiesel component. And Harvey is now buying the next generation of plug-in hybrid, and also will be running on HVO. But that battery will go at least 40 45 kilometers. So they will basically be a full electric for this route. But the upside for them is that they can use this vehicle also for longer other assignments. But with the Scania Zone, the equipment, the vehicle itself knows when it's entering a sensitive area. So the driver don't have to think about that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Before we go more into detail, I think it would be nice to learn something about the audience. So we prepared a Slido. I also already see some answers, so it would be very nice for us to know where you from where are you listening to this? So I see a lot of people from Stuttgart, which might be my colleagues back in office. We have some more people from Barcelona, London, Vienna, also from Stockholm, maybe Robin, your colleagues or some other interested people. So you can go on slido.com and put in the code which you see on the left on the screen right now, or scan the QR code. I think the link directly to the survey is also posted in the chat in LinkedIn right now. So we'll just wait some more minutes for some more people to reply. We see more people. So maybe Robin, just while people start answering, how did the consortium come up? So I know you've been part of a Horizon project, now part of the KIC. So how did you find the partners? How did the project form?
I think the first application to the EIT Urban Mobility project was done in parallel to the Eccentric project as an early on idea. And then as we were finishing up the Eccentric project, the application to EIT Urban Mobility was approved for a first early bird project the same year that the KIC started up, and both Stockholm and Scania are members of EIT Urban Mobility. So it made sense to use the same to build on the existing collaborations in Stockholm and bring that into the project and take it some steps further. For example, KDH, the Royal Institute of Technology, they have moved on to more sophisticated noise research and measurement in the EIT project compared to the Horizon project. So Stuttgart is still going strong, I think.
Yes.
As we found on the pitch events on Urban Mobility KIC, we had some with Carl Reut and some colleagues there that was interested in the same thing. So we joined forces and made it a consortium with them to have a logistic provider as well. Not only hobby, but another one with other challenges.
Yeah, no, definitely. They have been part of the factory as well, so we have been talking to them. So I think that would definitely be an interesting case in combining both of that. I think we can move to the next question. So what is your role in a smart city to all of the listeners? Are you from a city, another public organization, institution, from private, research, student, or from other? That helps us in the discussion later where we want to focus on how the collaboration between public and private also in a research project or in a funded project works and what are key success factors. Okay, so mainly private so far, but we don't have too many replies, so I think we can just wait for some more. So maybe just one more question in between, not focused on your collaboration, but on the project in general. What was the hardest part? Was it finding the partners? Anything in the technical issue or organizational? What was the main challenge you see?
The COVID situation.
Fair.
It really messed up the tests, the last test at least, because you know, the McDonald's the restaurants closed. So for a long period of time we couldn't do the test, but we really tried to have some of the restaurants open just to continue the trials. I think that was a bit of a problem.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to finding the partners, of course, that was very easy in the EAT project, since it had already been done in the Eccentric project mostly. So that was smooth. One technical issue that we found difficult was finding a place for installing charging infrastructure next to a restaurant in the city center. It's hard when you have on-street loading zones because they tend to move a little bit. I mean, things happen all the time in the urban environment, so we have to change the regulations along the street, and exactly where the loading zone is located along the curb might shift, which makes it difficult to install charging infrastructure next to on-street loading zones. So we had to do it on the one off-street loading zone that we had connected to the project.
So you had a designated charging or parking area which was not on a street, or how did you solve it?
Because one of the restaurants had the goods receiving on an off-street location within the property of that building, so that it made sense to install the charging infrastructure at that place.
Yeah, makes sense.
I guess that problem is not as severe anymore, as the battery technology has really improved dramatically. So maybe in the future it won't be necessary with the extra charging stations in the city.
Yeah,
that could be charged in the terminals.
So far you charge once during the trip, and besides that in a terminal. But that could be moved in future.
Yeah, the delivery scheme was that the truck was refilled at the terminal, and he went into the city center, delivered to 2 restaurants, and then out again to refill, because one full truck was enough for 2 restaurants. So it could charge every time it went to the terminal.
Okay, yeah. Nice. So we have most of our listeners from private company, but also students and city representatives. We'll move to the next question right now, where we also go into the discussion on how public-private collaboration on such projects work and what are the key enablers. So please, everyone in the audience, just put some keywords, what you think are the key enablers in public-private collaboration, or what you have experienced as key enablers. And Robin and Magnus, as soon as words pop up here, I would ask you to just comment if that was also the case in your project, or if you could relate to it or not. So we'll just wait until we have some answers. Maybe you could name your key enablers first, if you have some in mind.
Basically, everything I know is about public-private. Everything I do in my work is public-private collaboration. So it's about. I mean, it's good to be part of different contexts and networks, etc. Because it's often about building long-term relationships to facilitate collaboration over the borders, I would say.
Yeah, and I agree. I think trust is very important, you know, to have a joint goal, and understanding that the challenge, the global warming challenge is really crucial, and really it has to go fast now. And I guess we all want to be a part of that, and you know, speed up the development. And in that, I saw one of the first was about funding. And of course, that helps as an enabler and to speed up things, public funding. But it's not it helps to start things. And it's very important to start things. Otherwise, I mean, Scania has put a lot more money into those projects than we got from public money. But it helped to get things started.
And I think a learning that we have as a city, we can play an important role in stakeholder collaboration, to be the neutral part, to bring different stakeholders together, because we see a need for new types of collaborations as to develop sustainable business models, for example, when as we see a quite rapid development when it comes to e-commerce, digitalization, etc. So this really increases the need for broad collaborations, and the city can play an important role as an arena to bring different actors together, I think, and also as some sort of securing long-term engagement, since we can really set the scene with regulations and street design, etc.
So was it also the city who initiated the project? So because I saw here politics, they pushed this. Is that like, because I think that's the crucial part, like where you start and out of which intention you start. Is it the company having a new product or a project idea, or is it the city asking for it? How was it in your project?
I mean, even the Eccentric project built on earlier projects. So I think the idea of using the nighttime of off-peak transport in general was sort of a joint idea developed from different perspectives as a way of using our city in a smarter way to solve the increased congestion and accessibility. Perhaps you have another viewpoint, Magnus.
No, I think that's correct. And I also want to add that we have to be humble and realize that this is more complex than we think. There are much more stakeholders that needs to be involved. I mean, the chain is not stronger than the weakest link. And if you don't have all the parties involved, it will be very difficult to get it, you know, in real production. It will only stay as a project, and then it will fail. You have to understand the pains and gains of all the stakeholders. Like in our case, that McDonald's was a very important stakeholder, and if they don't want to have the reception at night, or everything falls. So what's in it for me? And you talked about the electricity charging stations. We have to have all the electric sector, so to say, involved as well, and last but not least, the public. I mean, when we know that it's works, we have to get it accepted, because it is a change. It's a behavioral change that is needed to accept this in cities, I would say.
And I think an important enabler can be also, I mean, when we rebuild and when we build new environments in the city, there is a possibility to prepare for this in the beginning, so that we can have unmanned receiving, for example, in underground facilities or indoor facilities. In that way, we solve much of the noise issues and the business model issues, reducing the costs. So I think real estate companies and property owners can also play an important role in the further development of off-peak.
Yeah, absolutely, and work with a business model for all stakeholders, because it's as I say, if one part doesn't gain, why should they be involved? Yeah. Because I know that when we discuss with other receivers, the Harvey company delivers to many restaurants, and for them they thought, I mean, what's the problem? We get the goods when we want it. Why should we be involved in the nighttime? It's just a pain. So we have to be able to show that there's a gain for all participants. So the business model to understand that within the projects and to get it sort of stuck afterwards, to really use it, has to be a positive side for it for all stakeholders involved.
Yeah, that makes sense. I already see some questions in the comments, so everyone feel free to add more questions here. There's a first one, Magnus. I think you hit on that already a bit in an earlier statement you made. It's from Borislav Stöckerman. Are you involving also the cargo cage / transport box manufacturer in the testing?
Yes, that is a very important part of the different projects. Now, we didn't in this project do very much on the material side, but I know that Colruyt was very active in that. That was sort of we focused on the vehicle in Stockholm and the reception, and Colruyt, who has the whole supply chain organized, they focused on the materials, the handling material. And they came up with quite some interesting innovations there. But it is a problem, of course, or a challenge, I would say. There are solutions, but it might be costly and it might be not one size fits all. So it depends on the setup and the logistic chain, the supply chain.
Yeah, thank you. I hope that is answered. If not, just ask another question. Unfortunately, we cannot talk to you, but you can just hit another question in the comments. There's another question on the charging. What was the power to load, and have you an idea on how long the trucks stop to unload or load from Ralf Kölle?
The charging time for this small battery was only 15 minutes or so. So it was plenty of time. It wasn't a problem. They didn't have to wait for the charging. It was the handling that took the most time. But of course, again, this was a very small batteries, and so we hope that the charging situation will sort of not be crucial anymore when the full electric vehicles that can run 250 kilometers, and that we have many OEMs already are in production. So I think the charging within the city center is not as crucial, will not be as crucial anymore for city solutions. It's for regional transports, of course, but for urban deliveries, it was needed then with this first prototype on plug-in hybrid, but I think that need will diminish.
Thank you. We have another question from Fabian Böttger concerning stakeholder engagement. Should the focus be more on consensual solutions than on compromises?
Oh, that was a tricky one.
Yeah.
I think maybe if I have to answer consensual, is more, and I will stress that we need to find the business models. Otherwise, it will just stay as a project and it will end. We have hundreds of projects that are showing great results, but they fail after they stop after the project is stopped. So we really need, when we start these kind of projects, understand the business model and the what you call it, the reasons why you get involved, and that you have some gains for it. And we can't rely on public money in the long run.
Yeah. Nice. We have one more comment or a question, but I feel it's more a comment that this is a really interesting case study from Jesse Scholtes or Jesse. And if you could help with that issues in other cities, I think that would be something, Magnus, where you could get in touch with afterwards, but I think that's not really a question which we have to discuss here. If anyone else has a question, please post them in the chat. Afterwards, I'll just have one final question to both of you. If someone else, because that's the main target of the project we at least had in EIT Urban Mobility, would like to replicate this solution, what is the main or the key advice you would give another city or another company involved in such a project?
I think it's very important to identify all the stakeholders and bring them on board at the beginning, early on in the project, so that you don't miss any perspective, because different actors and stakeholders have different pains and gains. So it's important to keep track of them from the beginning, I would say.
Thank you.
And create trust. To have a trustful cooperation, that you know why you're there and why your partners are there, and do something together. To build trust, it's important for this kind of projects, I would say.
Thank you very much. I didn't see any other questions, so happy to have talked to you and learned much more about the project than I knew before. For the audience, if you want to learn more about the project or of the other projects we've been collecting within the project, feel free to go on our platform. There you can find all the different use cases. Also, the report has been published by EIT yesterday, so I guess you can find them in the event description as well as in our LinkedIn or on the EIT page. Thank you both for being here. I see one final question. Maybe we can use that one as the last one and then just leave. Regarding the business model, how to make sure that everybody has an equal gain and other partners want to join based on a possible gain?
Well, I guess that's what we have to find out. It depends on the setup. So it's not one size fits all or a silver bullet there, but you have to discuss that early in the project. Well, if you wanted to continue after the sort of public money duration, you really have to look at the business model in the long run. And it's not as I said, it's not a silver bullet. It's different stakeholders. But I think what we're looking at now is unmanned reception. That will solve one of the problems. When you start this, you find a problem, and then you find the possible innovations to deal with them. So it's good to have this kind of pilot project, because you learn a lot, and you find more and more of the weak points in this, and so you can start looking into it and perhaps do some research or some innovation. That's the area.
Thank you. Yes, I think we've discussed this, that I like your point on that public money can only be a starting point, and that you have to make sure it runs on a long term to make it a successful project, and that all these collaboration can only evolve. So like there's not, in the beginning you might not know, and as you said, Robin, it also evolved over several projects, right? The project you're having right now, that there have been projects before, and this has been evolving. So I think that's one of the key messages. Take care of all the stakeholders, try to get them all on board with a proper business model on a long run, but there's no one size fits all, and it needs to be involving on like how you work together and how a project works. Thank you both for being here, and thanks everyone for listening. I think we can close this right now. Yeah, everyone, if you want to hear other similar events or want to learn about what we as BABLE are doing, follow us on LinkedIn, go on our webpage and see our use cases. If you want to learn more about the project of Robin and Magnus, you can find it on our page. You can get in touch with them. Thank you, everyone, and have a nice almost lunchtime right now. See you soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.